The red dust of Mars blows slowly across the mining colony as the sun hides behind the clouds and silence sits heavy in the air like a warning. No one can hear. Dane Carter stands at the edge of the platform, staring at the ship that just landed. Its engine still hot and humming. The cargo door opens slowly with a hiss, and two men step out wearing dark armor and no smiles. They hand him a crate made of black metal with small holes on one side, the size of a human chest and cold to the touch. Dane looks down confused and raises one eyebrow but says nothing. One of the men speaks with a voice like dry sand and says, "She's yours now." The registry says she and the kid are unclaimed bounty. Do what you want with them. Sell them, trade them. No one will care. Dane opens the crate slowly, and what he sees makes him take a small step back. Inside is a woman, her skin pale blue, her eyes glowing faint gold. She's thin like someone who has not eaten in days, and her arms are wrapped protectively around a child no older than 6. The child does not cry but stares up at Dane with eyes that are too calm, too silent. The mother does not speak, only looks at him like she has already accepted something worse than death. Dane says nothing. He signs the delivery form with one hand and watches the armored men walk away back into their ship. The engines roar again, and they are gone as if they were never here. He turns to the crate again and says, "Come out, you're safe now." But the woman does not move for a long time. She finally stands and takes the child's hand. They step out slowly, like they do not believe his words. Dane leads them into his small home built into the rock of the colony walls. The rooms are simple with steel walls and soft lights. The only furniture is a metal table, 2 chairs, and an old couch. He gives them water and food from his shelf, and they eat slowly, the child never looking away from Dane. The woman finally speaks, her voice soft and broken. She says, "Thank you." Dane nods once and says, "What's your name?" But she shakes her head and says, "We have no names anymore." That night, as Dane sits on the old couch cleaning a small laser rifle, the security alarm blinks once, then twice, then flashes red. Movement outside. Perimeter 20 meters. He stands quickly, grabs the rifle, and walks to the small window in the front room. He sees nothing but red dust floating like ghosts in the air. He whispers under his breath, "Not again, not tonight." The alien woman appears beside him, silent like a shadow. She looks out too, and says, "Someone is watching us. They followed us from the other side of the stars." Dane turns to her and says, "Who is they?" She does not answer. He walks to the front door, opens it slowly, and steps outside. The wind bites his skin, and the sky above is a pale orange with dark clouds moving like slow monsters. He scans the area with his rifle. The red scanner beam passes over rocks, metal scrap, and the old water tanks, then stops on something that moves just out of sight. Too big to be an animal, too fast to be a machine. Dane walks back inside, locks the door, and activates the internal defenses. The room fills with a soft hum, and the lights change from white to blue. He looks at the woman and says, "You need to tell me what's going on." She holds the child close and says, "They will come. They always come when they think we are weak." Dane stares at her for a long time, his eyes hard like stone. Then he takes a breath and says, "Well, they picked the wrong house." The child suddenly walks to the table and places a small metal chip on the surface. Dane leans in to look and sees a military tracking code burned into the side. Earth Military Tech High Clearance Restricted Zone. Breath catches for a second, and he says, "Where did you get this?" The woman says, "They put it inside me to track me like a machine." Dane picks up a tool from his shelf and slowly removes the second chip from her shoulder. The skin glows for a moment, and then the light fades. He puts the chip in a small container and tosses it into the furnace. The fire eats it, and the alarm system turns green again. Looks at her and says, "You're not for sale. Not now, not ever." She blinks slowly, and for the first time something soft returns to her face, a flicker of trust or maybe hope. Outside, the wind grows stronger, and in the distance something red moves between the rocks, too fast, too quiet, too patient, and the hunt has already begun. Asterisk. The sun rises weakly over the Martian hills, its light soft and dusty, like an old memory trying to return. Dane Carter stands outside his home, the ground beneath his boots dry and cracked like old bones. He watches The horizon where red wind dances across stone, and silence presses down like a warning. Inside the small shelter, the alien woman sits beside her child. Their backs against the wall, the child draws quietly with a broken stylus on an old data pad. His hand small but sure, his lines smooth and quick. Dane enters the room, his face unreadable, his steps calm but heavy, like someone used to war. But tired of its noise, he glances at the screen in the child's hand and pauses. The drawing is not random. It shows a planet on fire, ships in the sky, weapons falling like rain. He kneels beside the boy, points at the picture, and asks her, "Where's this?" The boy looks at his mother. She nods once, then he speaks in a soft voice, "Our home before the fire came." The woman's voice follows, slow and low. "They burned everything, the cities, the forests, the air. The only thing they wanted was inside the minds of our children. They said it would save their kind and end us forever." Dane looks at her, eyes sharp with memory. He says, "Who are they?" She says, "Your people, not all of them, but the ones with power, the ones who wear faces and speak peace, but build death in the dark." Dane stands again, walks to his control panel, checks the scans. No movement outside, no signals. Nearby, only cold wind and rocks hiding secrets beneath their shadows. He returns to them and says, "I found something in your shoulder, a military chip, Earth Tech high clearance. It is not just for tracking, it is for marking, like an object, not a person." She pulls her sleeve back and touches the place where the chip was, her hand shaking, not from fear but memory. "They put it in me when they took my husband. He was a pilot. He refused to help them. They said if I did not listen, they would take our child. I ran, they hunted." The boy looks up from his drawing, his eyes far older than his voice. He says, "They are still hunting. They never stop." Dane moves to his gear locker, takes out a scanner, long and thin, runs it over the boy's chest. The scanner beeps once, then flashes red. Another chip. He frowns, breathes slow and deep. This one is hidden deeper, close to the heart, military grade code. Locked. He looks at the woman. She nods without hesitation. "Do it." Dane sets up his tools. The room fills with blue light. He sterilizes the blade. The child does not move, not even when it cuts. He does not cry, his face still as stone. The chip comes out, small, black and warm. It pulses once before going cold. Dane puts it in a steel box, locks it shut, and places it under the floor panel, sealed and silent. He sits back and wipes the sweat from his hands, looks at the mother and son, both quiet, both watching him with eyes that no longer trust easily. Outside, a shadow moves along the edge of the cliff, too far for cameras, too fast for sensors, but close enough to listen. Inside, Dane stares. The boy's latest drawing. It shows a tall man with a long coat, holding the hand of a small alien child. Beside them stands a woman with fire in her eyes. The drawing glows faintly, as if memory itself lives in the lines. The woman speaks again, her voice low and steady. "They wanted the boy's memory. His mind is different. He can see things no one taught him. He remembers places he never saw before. They said he could unlock something." Replies something like what she says, "I do not know, only that they killed for it and will again if they must." He looks around his home, a place once meant for silence, now filled with too much meaning, too much danger. He opens a drawer, takes out a communicator, damaged and dusty, but still working. He sends a signal on an old channel encrypted from his military days. A voice answers, rough and half asleep. Dane says, "I need help. I need silence and eyes on the sky." The voice says, "Who are you hiding?" Dane answers, "Someone more important than any war." He ends the call and turns to the woman. "We leave tonight. Too many shadows around this place." The boy draws a new image. This one shows stars moving, a small ship flying away. A large hand reaching but missing outside. The wind howls across the rocks, and in the far distance a lens glints in the sun, then vanishes. The hunters are still watching, and they are getting closer. But now, Dane knows more than he did yesterday, and the woman beside him is no longer just a stranger. She is someone with secrets, someone with courage, and someone whose child may hold the last memory of a world already burned. He does not know what waits beyond the desert, or who will come next, but he knows one thing with certainty: will not take the boy, not while he still breathes. Night falls again on the Martian colony, thick and quiet like a heavy curtain drawn across the stars. Dane Carter stands alone near the outer fence, his eyes scanning the empty plain, his rifle resting against his shoulder, his breath calm and steady inside. The shelter, the alien woman and her child sleep close together, their small forms hidden beneath a blanket of old fabric, the child's hand clutching the edge, as if afraid it might vanish. Red light blinks once, then twice on Dane's wristband. Silent but clear, a motion alert triggered from the outer perimeter. He moves slowly, crouches low, activates his visor. The image sharpens, reveals heat signatures approaching from the north side. 3 figures walking close to the ground, wearing stealth armor, their shapes blurred, their movements slow and careful, trained not to be seen, not to be heard, not to be stopped. Dane whispers into his comlink, old code, silent trigger protocol. Green, the signal bounces off satellites, loops back. Dead line is jammed. He steps back inside, wakes the woman gently, whispers, "We are not alone." Her eyes open fast, alert with no fear, only readiness. She pulls the boy close, wraps his small coat around him. Dane grabs a small pack, fills it with tools, food, and the locked chip container, slings it across his back, leads them through the back exit into a narrow tunnel carved years ago for water lines, now dry and forgotten. Ground above rumbles faintly, metal boots landing quietly near the door. The mercenaries spread out, one near the door, one near the window, one circling around inside the shelter. They move like wolves, sniffing for prey, their helmets scanning the air for heat, their rifles powered low to kill without noise, without damage. One of them stops near the child's drawing pad, picks it up, stares at the image of stars and fire, then drops it slowly, turns his head as if listening to something hidden beneath the silence. Dane leads the woman and boy through the tunnel, their steps careful, their breath quiet behind them. The sound of boots above echo through the stone walls, a reminder that time is thin and the hunters are close. They reach the tunnel's end, a rock hatch covered in red sand. Dane pushes it open, slowly, the wind outside sharp and cold, the night sky stretched wide and endless, the stars watching without blinking. Guides them toward an old cum tower, half buried in dust, its frame bent, but still standing inside. Its walls are thick enough to block, scans its roof open enough to watch the sky. They enter the tower just as one of the mercenaries finds the tunnel entrance, his voice gruff through the helmet. "We've got a trail movement south, 2 targets. Plus unknown." The leader responds over the cum. "Stay sharp. Orders are not to kill the woman or child unless necessary. Bring back the chip. If the soldier resists, eliminate." Inside the tower, Dane places the child behind an old metal crate, the woman beside him, both silent, both ready. He sets up a small motion trap near the door, connects it to his rifle, breathes in slow, and waits. The mercenaries move fast, cutting through the dust like shadows with purpose, their armor built for speed, their minds focused on the target. One of them spots the tower, signals with 2 fingers. The others move to surround it, quiet steps, fast eyes, ready. Dane listens to the wind, hears it change, hears it break. For just a second, under one footstep, then another. He aims through the crack in the wall, fires, once, 1 down, 2 left. Second charges the trap, it sparks bright, with heat, forces him back for just a moment, enough for Dane to knock him down with a second shot, quiet and clean. Third mercenary speaks loud enough to carry, "I don't want to kill you, Carter. This is not your war. Walk away. You have no idea what you're protecting." Dane answers without raising his voice, "I'm protecting more than they ever will." Beatty mercenary says, "You know what the chip is. You were there during Operation Hollow Sky. You saw what the memory map could do." Dane's hands tighten around the rifle, his voice low and cold. "I saw what they did to make it work. They called it science, but it smelled like murder." Silence returns like a cold blanket. The mercenary steps back, disappears into the dark. The signal on Dane's scanner vanishes. No heat, no motion, only dust and wind. The woman looks at Dane, her eyes sharp. "You were part of them once." Dane nods and replies, "Not anymore." The child draws again, this time on the dirt with his finger, a symbol strange and glowing. It pulses once, then fades. Dane sees it, and his heart skips because he knows that symbol. It is from a file locked deep in Earth command a file marked, "Do not open." He looks out at the hills, then back at the woman. "We can't stay here anymore. They will come again, and next time they won't miss." She touches his arm and says, "Then we run until there is nowhere." Left to hide, Dane nods, shoulders the pack, and lifts the boy onto his side, the tower behind them now. Just another broken piece of Mars, the sky above full of stars that do not care, but somewhere out there a signal waits to be answered, and the truth inside a child's mind is burning like a flame that refuses to go out. The desert stretches far beyond sight, a sea of red stone and silence. The wind moves like whispers without language, carrying dust and memory across empty space. Dane Carter walks carefully, his boots sinking slightly in soft patches of sand, his eyes scanning the horizon, his shoulders heavy with the weight of choice behind him. The alien woman walks in silence, her child resting in her arms, eyes half closed but not asleep, always watching, always remembering. The sun above burns pale and distant. Not warm, not cold, just endless, the kind of light that forgets how to be kind. Dane stops near a sharp ridge of stone carved by time into strange shapes, like faces screaming from the ground. He raises his hand, points toward a dark shape far ahead, an old relay station abandoned before the colony was finished, half buried in rock, hidden from satellites. No signals, no power, no visitors since the last war, he says. "We'll rest there, maybe find shelter." "Maybe," answers the woman, nods, her voice quiet. "If there's no one waiting inside." They reach the station as the light begins to fade, the door rusted and crooked but still open enough to slip through. Inside, the air smells of metal and old circuits, machines long dead or sleeping, cables like vines crawling across the walls and floor. Dane sets the child down, gives him a drink from the last bottle of water. The woman checks the corners for danger. Her steps light, her breath slow and deep. The boy finds a broken screen, touches it with his fingers, and it flickers. Once Dane looks closer, wipes the dust, and sees something strange. The screen glows again, this time brighter. A pattern of lines appears, moving like waves across the surface. A signal buried deep in the system, not sent by them, not triggered by motion, just waiting for the right mind to wake. Eve turns to the woman, asks softly, "Has he done this before?" She shakes her head. "Not like this before. He only drew pictures or spoke in sleep, but never called machines." The signal grows louder now, not in sound, but in presence, like a pulse inside the walls, like a heartbeat trying to match theirs. Dane opens the back panel of the screen, pulls out a drive, connects it to his reader. The data floods in fast and encrypted, but the signature is familiar and military format, forgotten by most, but not by him. Operation Hollow. Sky red level clearance, lost in a black file 10 years ago and erased from official record. Child watches the screen, his eyes glowing faintly the way the signal glows, the way the machines respond. The pattern begins to repeat itself, a message not in words, but in shape and time and rhythm. Dane translates slowly, his voice steady, his hands cold. It says, "Project Echo Heart status, dormant vessel, active trace denied." The woman steps back, her face pale, her voice shaking. "What vessel? What trace? What do they want from him?" Dane scrolls deeper, finds a fragment of audio distorted by age, but clear enough to break the silence. The voice of a scientist, calm and clinical. Subject shows no signs of memory decay. Psychic data remains intact. Recommend transport to central lab under high guard. Child is key to unlocking full map. Woman grabs the child, holds him close, her voice fierce. They called him a subject, not a boy, not a life, just a code. Dane pulls the plug, shuts down the screen, tosses the drive into his pack. The relay station hums once, then fades back into silence. He turns to them, says, "We move again." Now the signal might have reached someone or something. The desert is no longer empty, not for us. They step out of the building, back into the wind, the child's hand held tight between theirs, the stars above blinking slowly as if watching from behind a curtain of dust. In the distance, a machine moves on 4 legs, slow and careful, scanning the ground with long arms shaped like bones. It stops near the ridge, sniffs the air with a glowing sensor, then turns west, disappearing into shadow. Dane watches from the rocks, his rifle in hand, breath held, heart still, his thoughts racing. They were not bounty hunters, not just mercenaries. These were machines built for search and capture. Smart, quiet, deadly. The boy draws in the sand again, lines and circles and strange letters from no human alphabet. A map maybe, or a door, maybe both. Dane crouches beside him, traces the shapes with his fingers, asks where does this lead? Boy looks up, eyes wide and calm. It leads to the place where it began. The woman kneels beside them, her voice strong again. Then we go there and end what they started. Dane nods slowly, his face set like stone. If we go there, we do not come back. The boy stands, dust on his face, stars in his eyes. We were never going back. They walk toward the rising wind the map burned into. Memory, the path set by fate or by fear. The relay station behind them, now just another ruin in a desert full of ghosts. And far away, far above, a satellite blinks for the first time in years, its sensors catching the edge of a signal, the beginning of a return asterisk. The heat clings to the red wind like a warning, the kind that creeps into skin and never leaves the sky above. A dull copper haze turning shadows into strangers. Dane Carter walks ahead, scanning the cracked horizon, the boy in his arms sleeping softly, the woman behind him silent but alert. They have traveled far through valleys shaped by ancient storms, across dunes that whisper names no one remembers. The signal still echoes in Dane's head, soft and broken, like a forgotten promise, guiding them toward a place that only the child seems to understand. Their rations are nearly gone, the air scrubbers weak, the last charge in Dane's scanner flickering, but they move forward, driven not by safety, but by purpose. The woman's eyes watching the sky, the boy's dreams filled with voices he does not understand. At dusk they find shelter, an old cargo pod, left half buried in the dust from some forgotten supply route. Its doors jammed but still holding its walls thick enough to hide heat signatures. Inside, Dane places the boy down, wraps him in his coat, checks the perimeter one last time, and then activates a secure channel hidden deep in his gear. It crackles to life, and a familiar voice answers, rough and tired. Use. Alive. Dane speaks quietly. Need fuel, need parts, need time. The voice hesitates, then says, coordinates sent 20 clicks east, ridge markers 17. Come alone. Dane ends the call, tells the woman, stay here, keep him quiet. I'll be back before sunrise. She looks at him for a long moment, then nods. No questions, just trust built through danger, not words. Walks through the night, fast and quiet, memories stirring with every step. The voice from the link belongs to Harvin Cole, an old war partner, one of the few who never broke a mission, never questioned a target. The stars overhead fade as the first light returns, casting long shadows across the ridge where Cole waits, leaning against an old Rover, cigarette in hand, rifle strapped across his back. Same smirk, same eyes filled with old scars. You look like hell, Cole says. Dane replies, better than being dead. They shake hands, not like brothers, more like men who survived something too big to name. Cole opens the Rover's back hatch, shows Dane supplies, water, power cells, even a field medkit. Dane nods, grateful but wary, asks why help now. Cole shrugs, says because you asked. They sit for a while inside the Rover. Cole pours weak coffee from a cracked thermos, asks what's in the kid. Dane stays quiet, then says he remembers things he never saw, maps, doors, names not ours. Cole's smile fades, his voice drops, and they know he's not just a kid. Dane nods slow, like admitting a truth he wanted to forget. Earth Command is looking for him. Someone leaked the hollow sky files. The kid is the map, the last one. Cole stands, walks to the window, his back stiff, his voice tight. Do you trust me? Dane says, I have to. The silence stretches long and sharp. Then Cole sighs and says, then I'm sorry. Before Dane can move, two figures step out from behind the Rover, rifles raised, faces hidden behind glass visors, Earth insignia on their shoulders. Cole doesn't look back, just says, I told them you'd come alone. You always do. Dane's hand twitches near his belt, but he knows he's outgunned. The soldiers move closer. One pulls out a scanner, points it toward the direction of the pod. Dane steps forward, voice flat. He's not just a map, he's a person. Cole turns his head just enough to speak, and Earth sees him as both asset and threat. Suddenly a sharp sound cuts through the air. The scanner explodes in the soldier's hand. Both guards drop to the ground quick and hard. A figure stands behind them. Rifle raised, eyes burning. It's the woman she never stayed behind. Dane moves fast, grabs Cole's arm, shoves him back against the rover, his voice low and cold. I trusted you. Cole coughs, says you always were a fool for lost causes. The woman speaks from the ridge, her voice louder than the wind. You try to take him again, and I will burn the sky. Dane pulls the supplies, slams the hatch shut, leaves. Cole coughing in dust and betrayal. No bullets fired, but something more permanent broken. They reach the pod by nightfall. The boy wakes, eyes wide, as if he felt it all while he slept. His hand grips Dane's coat without words. Dane places the supplies down, sits near the entrance, his mind racing. The woman sits beside him, her voice calm but full of storm. You should have known he would sell you. Dane nods. Once I did, but I hoped you wouldn't. Child draws in the dust again. This time not stars, not maps, but three figures standing side by side, fire behind them. Not running, not hiding, just standing outside. The wind rises again, sharp and angry. In the distance, another drone passes, too high to hear, too fast to see, but it sees them, and now others will come. The sky above turns silver as dawn stretches across the Martian sand, the wind soft but uneasy, the kind of wind that carries signals and secrets. The boy wakes first, his eyes already watching, already knowing, as if dreams have taught him something no waking world ever could. Dane Carter sits near the pod's broken door, his rifle resting on one knee, his eyes scanning the edges of the dunes, his mind repeating Cole's words again and again, not because they hurt, but because they were true. In the coldest way, the woman moves quietly beside him, her steps careful, her breath measured. She does not ask what happened during the meeting, but she already knows betrayal leaves a scent, and it lingers like smoke. They gather their gear, check the supplies. The child draws one last symbol in the dust, then erases it with his palm. Dane does not ask what it means. Some things are better kept hidden until the right moment. They begin walking again toward a canyon Dane remembers from old recon. Maps carved deep into the rock like a scar. It once held a research base. Small, secret, silent. It was decommissioned after the war, or at least that's what the file said. Canyon greets them like an old wound, its walls steep, its floor cracked. And narrow shadows cling to every corner, the kind that move when no one is looking. The air here smells different, colder, older. They reach the facility's entrance, a metal door half buried by rock, the access panel still intact, blinking weakly. Dane kneels, brushes the dust away, enters an override code he was never supposed to remember. The door opens with a long sigh of metal and memory inside. The lights flicker to life, revealing long halls lined with forgotten equipment, old med pods shattered, terminals wiring torn and scattered across the floor like veins pulled from a dying body. The woman steps in slowly, her hand never far from the boy, her eyes tracing the walls like they might speak. The child walks ahead, unafraid, his small fingers brushing the sides of the hallway as if greeting something familiar. Dane checks the terminal in the main room, finds fragments of data scattered like ashes, but one file remains, locked behind triple clearance, hollow sky central command access only. Looks at the boy, says quietly, can you open it? The boy does not answer with words. He touches the screen, and it responds not with code, not with numbers, but with recognition. The file opens, revealing video logs, project notes, voice entries, all pointing to the same truth. The child was not just the last of his kind. He was built for memory, shaped for knowledge, grown in silence to carry what no machine could hold. The woman stares at the screen, her voice shaking. They knew what he would become before he was born. They planned it all. Dane watches the logs in silence, each one worse than the last. Footage of other children tested, trained, discarded when they failed. Only this one survived. Only this one remembered everything. The log ends with a face. A general from Earth's upper command, eyes cold, voice proud, speaking to a room full of shadows. We no longer fight with ships or weapons. We fight with minds. And this child is the sharpest blade we've ever forged. Dane turns away, his fists tight, his breath sharp. He says, they don't want him back. They want what's inside him. Once they have it, he's no longer needed. Woman stands in front of her child, wraps her arms around him, says, "Then we give them nothing, we burn it all before they take one more thing from us." Suddenly the lights go out, replaced by a red emergency glow sirens. Silent but pulsing, a security breach alert flickering across every screen. Dane runs to the door locks. It manually checks the outer sensors movement. Incoming fast and direct, no hesitation, no confusion, not mercenaries this time, not bounty hunters. These are soldiers, eh? Voice comes through the speaker above, calm, controlled, the kind of calm only monsters carry inside. It says, "Dane Carter, you are harboring a dangerous biological weapon. Surrender it now and your death will be painless." Dane laughs, once dry and bitter. He replies over the channel, "You built a weapon into a child, and you call me dangerous." The voice responds, "The asset belongs to Earth. Return it, or be erased." The woman looks at Dane, her eyes fierce like stars behind storm clouds. She says, "How long do we have?" Dane answers, "Not long enough." He opens the last terminal slot, places the chip container inside, connects it to the relay. A file begins uploading, encrypted burst sequence spread across 10 networks. The voice returns, warning, "Final chance before we breach." Dane does not respond. He looks at the boy, then at the woman, and says, "I made my choice when I took the crate. I'm not going back." The child raises his hand again, touches the wall. The lights flicker, then surge blue. Lines of energy race across the ceiling. The bass groans like something waking from a long sleep, and for the first time Dane feels it, not fear, not anger, but something heavier, hope. Outside, boots hit the ground, armored figures moving fast, rifles charged, eyes blank and ready. But inside the base, the walls begin to shift, old defenses reactivating, codes forgotten by Earth itself, now returned by the child who remembers everything. And as the soldiers move closer, the desert watches without mercy, without sound, because what waits in the dark is no longer running, it is preparing to fight back. The ground shakes under heavy boots, the sound rising like thunder through metal and stone. The base groans with age but refuses to collapse its walls. Now alive with blue veins of energy pulsing from the child's touch, the boy stands still in the center of the room, eyes closed as if listening to something ancient, something vast. Dane Carter checks the door again, reinforces it with steel rods and plasma welds. His hands moving fast, his breath tight, not with fear, but with purpose, the kind that only comes when there is nothing left to run from. The woman crouches beside her son, whispering in a voice only he can hear, her hands never trembling. Not now, not when the end feels close enough to taste. Outside, the soldiers gather, weapons raised, armor shining with artificial light. They are not here to negotiate, they are here to erase. A voice calls again, through the speaker, cold and final. "This is your last chance. Surrender the child, and your lives may be spared. Your actions have triggered classified defense protocols. You are now considered enemy combatants." Dane laughs under his breath, low and sharp, and says, "If we're enemies, then we'll act like I." They've walks to the central panel, slams a manual override into the console. The upload still running, still slow, too slow, but he refuses to stop it. This message will go out. It must go out, not just to Earth, but to every free signal tower across the system, every colony, every station, every voice that can hear truth over silence. The woman places a small object in Dane's hand, a thin pendant shaped like a star, but warm to the touch. She says it holds his memory. "If we die, you take it with you. You find someone who will carry it forward." Dane closes his fist around it and says, "We're not dying, not today." Suddenly the outer door explodes, the blast echoing like the roar of a falling god. The first squad enters fast and silent, their visors scanning for targets, their rifles ready to end everything in seconds. Dane opens fire. His shots precise, his stance solid. The hallway lights flare as energy bolts fly across walls, sparks raining down like fire from a broken sky. The woman pulls her son behind the main core, shields him with her body, her hands raised not in fear, but in power, as if she dares the storm to come closer. More soldiers pour in, wave after wave, trained not to feel, not to think, just to finish. The child finally opens his eyes, and they are glowing like suns, too small to contain what is inside him. He raises Both hands and the entire base shifts. The machines around him hum like a choir. The lights pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. Dane watches in awe, not terror, because he sees not a weapon, but a soul burning so bright it refuses to be controlled. Soldiers stop mid-step, frozen, caught in fields of invisible force, their weapons shaking, their armor sparking as systems fail one by one. Child walks forward past the woman, past Dane, toward the enemy, not to destroy, but to speak. He says in a voice too steady for someone so small, "You tried to make me forget, but I remember everything." The soldiers begin to fall back, unsure for the first time. Their programming disrupted, their orders blurred by something they cannot explain. The base doors open again, not by force, but by will, and outside the signal towers light up one by one across the ridge. Ancient satellites begin to turn receivers, realigning to a frequency never used before. The upload completes a burst transmission sent into space. Untraceable, unstoppable, filled with files and logs and memories, proof of what Earth Command did to his people, to him. Back at the heart of the base, the boy collapses into his mother's arms, exhausted, but safe, his voice a whisper, "I gave them everything. They will know now, they cannot hide." Dane kneels beside them, not as a soldier, not as a protector, but as family. The choice made long ago, now sealed with fire and truth. Above the canyon, a fleet arrives, Earth's elite ships, black and cold and ready to silence what they cannot control. But the world has already heard the message, and for the first time the system does not look away. Rebels rise in the outer colonies, voices spark in distant channels. Codes flow through the dark like wildfire, and Earth's grip begins to loosen inside the base. Dane stands again, helps the woman to her feet, carries the child with care. His strength, not from training, but from love. They walk out together, not as fugitives, not as survivors, but as something new. Forged in fear, but bound by choice. The desert greets them with silence, but not emptiness behind them. The base still stands, its energy humming a quiet promise that some truths cannot be buried, and across the stars a whisper begins to grow louder than any weapon, clearer than any lie. They were told to sell her and abandon the boy, but he chose to become their family instead.